Hi, welcome to Math for All, where we strive to make math curious, creative, and inclusive for everyone. I'm Molly Vokey.
And I'm Heidi Subnani. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are so excited to have you here with us, and we would love for you to let us know where you are watching from. And feel free to subscribe to our Math for All YouTube channel or follow us on Facebook or Twitter. We are really excited today to speak with our guest, Libo Valencia, and he is going to be speaking with us about what is math play and why do we need it in schools. And so we are just thrilled to have this conversation today.
Yeah, Libo is really active on Twitter, and we connected during the pandemic because he does a lot of really fun stuff in his classroom. And he occasionally sends me stuff and says, "Check this out. This is what I did with my kids today." So I'm excited to see what he has to show for us today. All right, so I'm going to do his bio and then we're going to invite him in. Libo Valencia is a mathematics educator with 12 years of experience who lives in New York. Libo is a passionate teacher who strongly believes that understanding mathematics can help all students develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills that can be utilized outside the classroom. Libo is also known for his constant use of different technologies to engage his students and bring math concepts to life. He currently teaches at Horace Greeley High School in Chappaqua, New York, and also at SUNY Liban College in the Bronx. As a mathematics educator, he has taught a wide range of subjects from remedial algebra classes to upper-level calculus. Libo holds a Bachelor of Arts in Mathematics, a Master of Arts in Pure Mathematics, and a Master of Science in Educational Leadership. So he is very well versed in a lot of mathematical things. So let's invite Libo in. Hello,
Hello.
Libo.
Hey Molly, hey Heidi.
Hi.
You make it sound like I'm so important. I'm not. I'm
It
just a
is.
teacher.
Are. Well, you're here, so you're
Yeah.
important, right?
No, there's nothing more important than classroom teachers, particularly in the environment that
True.
we are in. And we so, appreciate being able to, we get to visit and be like guests in classrooms all the time. But it's been a while since we've had, our own classrooms. And
Hmm.
it is the challenge that we see that teachers experience right now is so above and beyond anything that has ever happened in the past, and so we just really appreciate that. And teachers are the best, and we need to continue
Thank
that
you.
conversation.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
it's
Thank.
it's really nice for us because we don't often have people who are in on our show have people who are 100% in the classroom. So
Mhm.
it's really nice for us to be able to chat with somebody who is really experiencing the pandemic in the way that you are, and what you're coming out of it with is such a fresh perspective. So why don't we talk about
Yeah.
what your math story is?
So I feel that I've always been connected to math. Growing up in Colombia, I feel that I was always like a good student. But like math, I always felt like math was my place. Like I was always
Mhm.
very successful in math classes. And then when we moved to the States, I continued like my passion and my love for mathematics. I decided to become a math teacher. And since then, this is actually my 13th year of teaching. It's something that I really enjoy. Math comes like always came like very natural to me. I always felt like a special connection. I love the consistency of mathematics, how it always makes sense and everything is connected. And since like very early on, I always felt very comfortable like helping people and showing people the beauty of math or like how things work. So that like math is like I'm very passionate about mathematics and teaching it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Libo, when did you move here from Colombia?
Oh, I moved when I was a teenager. I moved when I was actually
Oh,
15 years old. Yes. So I
oh,
came
wow.
and I had to learn English, right?
Mhm.
And it was a journey. It was there was a lot of things going on, but I always felt like math was like my home. Like math, I'm comfortable whenever I'm doing math.
Wow. And did you move to New York? Was that where you moved to
Yes,
when you
yes,
came
yes.
from
I
Colombia?
went to straight to like White Plains High School.
Okay.
And then yeah, I started high school, and then I from there I went to Lehman College. I did my undergrad at Lehman.
Okay.
on a scholarship. Then I finished at Lehman, went back to White Plains, taught for a couple of years at White Plains High School, and then went back to Lehman to do my first master's in pure math. And then as soon as I finished doing that, I started teaching at Lehman. So that, like, I've always been connected. Like, math has been like an important part of my life.
Yeah, I'll say
that's awesome. And I
several
think
degrees in mathematics. So
well, and that idea that math transcends language too. You know, there
Yes.
is that common language that regardless of what language you're speaking, that there is that continuum and that ability to play and have sense making regardless of how we approach it with our spoken language.
Right, Heidi. If I can share something, when I like back then when I was like in 10th grade, I remember I was enrolled in a lot of like ESL class. They were called ESL classes at the time, for people who were learning English. But like my math class was a regular class, so it was amazing, and that's probably the class where I felt the most comfortable. I didn't understand the language, but like I understood the math, so I was able to connect and do what I needed to do through mathematics. So I think that's when I knew. I was like, okay, like this is what I want to do when I grow up, or for a living.
wow. Do you think that being in that math class helped you with your English because you knew the
Definitely.
mathematics?
Definitely, like I understood the math, and I felt very comfortable because of that. Like I felt like, okay, like this is my home, and I definitely feel that I probably learned more English in that class than in my ESL classes.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting. We have done some work, like some volunteer work, with, no, that's not Teachers to Teachers Global anymore, Math Kind.
Oh,
And I really had to think for a second. And I taught briefly in Guatemala for a year, when I was younger. And it's that idea of like how language plays such a role in what you feel comfortable with sharing and speaking, and how we communicate about the mathematics too is so, because I'm not fluent in Spanish. And so it was that idea of how do I make the mathematics clear still in ways that are accessible, and the language doesn't become a barrier to that. And I think that's so like such an interesting way to sometimes think about that we don't do enough in our classes.
But I would say that even for English speaking kids, we don't do enough, because some English speaking native to United States also feel that math is a foreign language. So interesting to think about all of those perspectives about language and mathematics. All right, well, let's get to your question, Libo.
Yes.
What is math play, and why do we need it in schools?
So that's a good question. So I'm a dad, I'm a father. That's probably the most important job that I have right now. I'm a father of a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. So with my 7-year-old, 2-year-old, like, no, she listens to nobody.
Yeah.
But my 7-year-old, since she was like very young, we started like playing in the basement. I have all sorts of like games and sets and things, because like, let's face it, young kids always want to play. So I started playing with her and showing her things, and basic things like shapes and like addition and counting and memory and things like that. And it was such a fun experience for like the both of us. Now I want to mention that I have no formal training in teaching any elementary students other than my daughter, and it has been just like more through play and like what I think is gonna work and what I don't think, like things like that. So it's more like I'm learning by doing and by playing with my daughter. So I noticed that whenever I play with, so we started calling it math play. Where she will say like, "Tata, are we doing math play or are we doing play play?" So like we will go back to the basement.
We must distinguish.
Right. She's like, "Are we doing math play or are we doing play play?" So we will like start playing in the basement, and it became a thing, and where she was engaged, and I would like let her struggle with some things, and she started like figuring out things, and it was always like very engaging. It actually felt like we were just playing in the basement. Until like I started as a high school teacher, I started thinking, well, would it be possible to like bring this idea of math play into like the classroom with like my high school students, and I was scared. I was like, oh my god, this is gonna work. These are teenagers at the high school level, right? Are they gonna think like, okay, like Mr. Valencia, this is silly. Like, why are we doing this? This is, but I decided to give it a shot, and it has been like nothing but amazing. So the idea of math play is like learning math with play. Like exploring things without like making mistakes, taking as long as we want to explore things. And I feel that because of that, my daughter is now much more comfortable, like trying things on her own. She has developed, like, she's able to stay with a problem. When we started playing, she will be like, okay, like, Tata, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me how to do this? And then but with time, she learned that if she like works on it, she can potentially figure it out or like try a different approach, which I think it's so important in mathematics at all levels for students to know that there's not, just like one approach to do things, and you either get it or you don't. I think it's so important for them to see like, okay, I can approach it this way, I can do it this way. And that's always like, that's not very common. Even at the college level, as a college student or like teaching at the college, I found that there are professors who like tend to like say, okay, like this is the way you learn it, this is the way I want you to do it in the exam. And that's not necessarily like what like best for our students. Like, I think it's important for students to know that when they're enjoying mathematics, is not, there's no like a single way that you have to do it like this or you don't understand it. So I think my experience with my daughter, and like I got the idea I should try this with my students, and let's see what happens.
So, Libo, that's so interesting. Speaking of that, Libo, you have a fan. Julie is chiming in, and she's saying she's so glad that she could make it to watch. And she's
thank you for
really
being here.
happy that you have been an advocate of play and the role of play in the classroom. So, I feel like it's interesting that you are saying that you are trying to transfer something from somebody who's very little, and play comes much more naturally because that's how they learn, to older kids and being scared of that. And so can you tell us a little bit more about the reaction that your students had when you first brought play to the classroom, and some of the things that you mentioned about your daughter in terms of developing perseverance and acceptance of making mistakes, and some of the growth mindset things that we all try to work on with our students developed in her naturally through this play? And how did that also work with your students?
Oh, it were really nice. Am I able to share the slide? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, here we go. Thank you. So, because I want to like tell you, but I also want to show you. So again, like the idea of math play came from like playing with my daughter. We will go down to the basement and started like playing with shapes, playing with anything that I could potentially find. And like she started learning and developing things. What I noticed with time was that my daughter will start to like have the initiative. She will say like, Tata, what if we do this? Can we like use the Legos? What if we do this? One of like my favorite games to play with her was like doing something in like 2 dimensions, like the card that you see here, and then try to translate it into 3 dimensions, which like a lot of times did not work, but it was okay. Like she would like try it and be a little upset. And like a lot of times she will be trying something that I knew wasn't possible, like mathematically possible, but I let her like struggle and find that on her own. So like I want to share one story. Like one night, my daughter is we're getting ready to go to sleep, and like like when the kids don't want to go to sleep, so she's like taking her time, and then I'm like, come on, Mariana, let's go, and then she just like looks at me and says, Tata, what are negative numbers? What's a negative number? And then I'm like, so like she hit the spot. Like I can't, we nobody can go to sleep right now. We need to figure out what's a negative number. So then I
number.
Exactly. I run and I get some like graph paper. I got the graph paper first. I did a number line. So I did like what any like parent would have done, right? Like I did a number line. I show her 0 and I say, okay, like the negative numbers are to the left side of 0. So then my daughter is staring at the number line and she says, so Tata, so they're like Anakin. They're on the dark side. And I'm like, yes. Exactly. They are exactly like Anakin. So now I'm running back to the basement. I'm getting the Legos. We're like doing this thing. Of course, she got like 30 minutes of a wait time while we're
Yeah.
like playing with this and like and having fun. So like what I noticed with my daughter, it became like a thing where like we're gonna do math play. And it also became something that it was important to her. Like we will explore like the questions that she had. We will explore like the whatever method she wanted to do. And over time, it was like very positive. So this is a story that I love. So as an educator, I started thinking, okay, like, is it like what I noticed with my daughter? There was curiosity. It was very natural. There was always like a sense of exploration, and it was like student driven. Like she always wanted to like do something, and I will like just like kind of like sit back and let her take, which was hard as her dad. And as you know, like teachers, we always want to help, right? But it was hard, so I let her, and I noticed that it was like very effective. So I started thinking, okay, like would it be possible for me to teach like this or like have some of these ideas at the high school level? At the time I was teaching geometry, pre-calculus and calculus. So like I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna be completely honest and real. I was afraid, I was worried, I was like, oh my god, like is this gonna work? Are they gonna think like Mr. Valencia, this is dumb, like this is dumb idea, we shouldn't do this, don't ever do this again, go do it with your daughter, not with us. So I was afraid. I was afraid of trying something new. I was also like worried about like giving up control because like
Yeah.
as I mentioned, it has to be like student led. And I was also worried about a lack of engagement. I feel that we all teach, like any teacher, not just math teachers, we teach more than the content, right?
Mhm.
So like I feel that I'm able to connect with my students to a level that where they're like, okay, Mr. Valencia, let's try that, right? I had students who like are in like essential level classes that will tell me, Mr. Valencia, I don't like math class, but this is my favorite class. And I was like, how does that even work? So I feel like if you're able to connect with your students, they will be willing to like try things for you. And okay, like so I decided, of course, to give it a shot. So I started thinking, and I felt that geometry would have been like a fantastic place to start.
Mm.
So one day, I think we were doing like something like very early on in geometry in the school year where we were doing triangles. So I had my students say, you know what, let's get up. Let's go outside. This was like during the pandemic when everyone was like glued to the screen. I said, go outside, take a picture of something that you think is a right triangle, and then we're gonna put it in. I think it was GeoGebra. Yeah, we'll put it in GeoGebra. Put the picture in GeoGebra, and then prove or disprove that it's actually a right triangle. So instead of doing like a worksheet with like several examples, we did like one example. So they went outside, took a picture, but it was like meaningful. It was like something that they wanted to do. And then I also didn't give them a lot of instructions on purpose. So some of them came back and said, oh, like I look at the slopes, I measured the angle, I did a Pythagorean theorem. So it was really nice. The students were really engaged. Just like for like they wanted to show me the picture that they took. Like Mr. Rollins said, this is the picture that I took. It looked like a right triangle, but it wasn't, or it was like very. I think it is. It's just like my computations. So the students were very engaged. It was different. The classroom like felt alive. The kids seemed to really enjoy it, and I didn't mind that we didn't do like a lot of practice. But like the practice that we did was like so meaningful to them.
Mhm.
So I started doing that in geometry. Later on, we did something similar with parallelograms, where I said, okay, take a picture of a parallelogram and then prove or disprove that is actually a parallel. So the students did the same thing. They're walking around. Of course, they're taking pictures of things that are relevant to them, that they want to show all their classmates, that they want to show me. So it was really nice. So geometry, I was like, okay, check. Geometry is good. We can do math play in geometry. So then I started thinking, all right, how can I do this in pre-calc? So at the time I think we were going into like conic sections, and I remember seeing the Pringles Ringle a long time ago. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like maybe we could do this. Maybe we could do a circle. And then after doing the circle, we can maybe take a picture of the circle, put it on decimals, and then find the equation for that particular circle. I also feel that a lot of times, especially at the secondary level, when we mention the idea of play, people might feel that, oh, okay, like this is something cute that you're gonna do for a day, and it's not necessarily like the mathematics that we did is like rigorous, is exactly what I would have been doing. Like, so instead of using like the regular example that I will normally do in past years when I started teaching, I'm doing something different, something that the students are happy, are connected. I put the emojis on the faces, but they were all happy. They were all smiling. I promise you, they were all happy. They were all smiling. They
I
did
don't
their
see any tears,
yes.
Libo. It looks like a very happy classroom.
Yes, they were doing the thing, and then we even took it to the next level because the Pringles thing is for circles, but I had students that actually did like sort of like an ellipse. So like I remember like this student actually did the equation for an ellipse. So there were connections, it was natural, it was something fun, it was something different. We did this like right before the pandemic. So that's like this picture where like they're all in the classroom, and we also did it like during the pandemic. So they did it at home. They bought the Pringles themselves. So it was really nice. So I was like, okay, geometry check, pre-calc check, let's go into calc. So in my calc class, we were doing an optimization unit. And we're doing the classical, you cut out the corners and you're trying to make a box with the maximum volume. So of course we did the math, and then I use GeoGebra. I'm sorry you can't see, like this is a PDF, but this is an animation that shows you like how everything connects, the slope of the tangent line with the area that you have in the volume. And then I had the students actually build the box. So they came in the next day, and I gave them a piece of paper. I said, okay, like now we're going to build that maximum. So you know how the students say, like, when am I going to use this? We're going to use it right now. I'm going to give you a piece of paper right now, and you're going to create a box with the maximum volume. It was fun. Everyone had a good time. So there is nothing wrong with like doing the question like this, doing a lot of questions like this. But if you could do something where the students get to like do something, it's fun. It's fun. It's engaging. They like it. You're still teaching the mathematics. Like I said, it's not something like, oh, this is something fun or like a cute activity that we're going to do one day. And the students are like so thankful. The students like it. They enjoy it. Now everybody, like, social media is very important to our students. They will like take pictures, send it, post it. So it was like a really positive experience.
Okay, hold on. Hold on.
Molly has high schoolers.
Your students are posting their math work on social media.
They're sharing it. They like share it, and then our class, like my pre-calc class is 408. So they have a hashtag. We have hashtag team 408. So they will like put it and put the picture, and I do the same thing. Like that is something that like the power of like social media nowadays. When they do this and they see that, oh, Mr. Valencia put the picture of our work, it's meaningful to them. And then like the school will share it, or the district will share it, and other people will see it. It takes like, it makes it feel good. Like what we're doing in class, it's relevant. It's something that we can show other people, and it has like real connections and whatnot. So it definitely increases the engagement level in the classroom, and it's fun. It's fun to like see the students like play with math and enjoy it.
So Libo, are you doing? I mean, you're checking off a lot of boxes here where you can do this in geometry, you can do this in pre-calc. Are you doing this every day, or do you have some days where you have to do some standing?
No, of course not. That's part of the presentation. So I'm not, I'm not going to give a presentation like, oh, I do math play all day, every day, because that's not true. That's not realistic. We're all at like different places. When I started saying like, okay, I'm going to do at least one like math play activity within a unit of study. At least one math play activity per chapter. So like within our unit, there's going to be at least one time where we're going to do something that is fun and related to the material. Like, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say that I'm doing this every day. I'm not like I have a secret or I'm the owner of the truth, because I'm not. Like, I'm a teacher with the same problems teachers have. So I am trying to do something that is like positive, that I believe is positive. I believe that it's centered on like what the students want. It makes the class like so much more fun, and like they're still learning the mathematics, but in a fun way. So I try to do it. Like now I'm trying to do it like more often. There's also like a lot of technology out there, like Desmos, GeoGebra, that can facilitate math play in the classroom. But like at least I will say, start with the class that you're most comfortable in, and like try to do it, like make a goal. Like I'm going to do it at least once per unit of study or per chapter or whatever.
That's excellent advice, because as Heidi and I work with teachers and try to initiate more engagement in the classroom. These are the types of things that we would like to invite teachers to do, but those are always the questions. Heidi, do you agree that, like how to kind of mesh our old school type of learning with this kind of engagement?
Well, and thinking about even going back to your daughter's example and that conversation, building the perseverance and the stick with itness, I guess, and that relevance is I think is more critical now than ever before. You know, we've had interrupted learning. We've had just it's so much harder to motivate and to invite students into school, any
Definitely.
schoolwork, and then
Mhm.
sometimes with math even more so. But you know, this is one of those ways to really provide those opportunities for students to have those experiences and to build some of that stamina, um,
Definitely.
and really engage in ways that are, you know, are so exciting. And I love this idea. You know, I was going to say we've played around with, but that idea of like, how do we incorporate that into classrooms on a more regular basis? And
Right.
I'm thinking, you know, about all of these initiatives right now that are out where, you know, like, oh, we're going to fight learning loss by having Saturday school or having,
Mm.
you know, school during all of the different breaks. But for some kids, 4 hours of math class over their winter break is like that's punishment, not something exciting.
Exactly.
But if it was something
Hmm.
like this, if we were
Mm.
thinking about how we invite opportunities for play and exploration during that time, I think we can both change the conversation around math and
Hmm.
help students to really learn content in ways that are much more meaningful to them.
Right. And that they can relate to. Like we
Yep.
cannot compete with their phones. Like
No.
we cannot. There's too much going on there on their cell phones, right? We cannot compete like with that level of attention. And one of the things that I noticed with like when I first started is high engagement, like crazy, crazy engagement. Like you want to be observed when you're doing this because the engagement will be crazy. The students started doing like you. I started serving a lot of perseverance, right? When they're making the circle, it's falling, but they see that other people are doing it, so they're like working on it, and they started taking like ownership over the material. If you notice, like some of these boxes, they
Mhm.
decorated the boxes. Right,
Yep.
I didn't ask them to do that, so like they started decorating the boxes, so like it's meaningful. There's like high engagement. They're like trying to do the thing. There is like mathematical content behind it, and there is like I saw a level of like student ownership. They're starting to like take the initiative. It's not just like Mr. Valencia has all the content. We need to like listen to him, pay attention to him. Yes, like there is a part like there's always room for like a direct instruction. I'm not saying that
Mhm.
that's not effective. Like we need that as well, but we also not need to like allow the students to play with it and make mistakes. Like every time when we have our beautiful and perfect lessons, and like they don't get to see like the mistakes and the struggle that we have, right? Putting those together over the years. Like when like the lessons that I do now after 13 years of teaching are not the lessons that I did when I started teaching. Like my students don't know that. The students that I have now, they didn't get to see those horrible lessons at the beginning. So like it's important for them to like for us to facilitate not only like because people talk about that all the time, like, oh, we should like allow them to, but we don't model it, right? Like model the mistakes and accept them and do that because we want to make sure there's like this culture of like math has to be perfect and like it's like you either get it or you don't get it, and it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
like that at like any level, elementary level, like secondary level, college. Like it has to be. We should allow some time for the students to explore and play without also like the constraint of like, oh, we have to be done in 40 minutes. This is gonna be this many points. Like just let them play and let them explore things, and like good things will happen.
So that for me, that's another thing that teachers
Mhm.
say when I'm working with them and we start going down this path of more engagement and even just games or something that's more project based. uh, how do I make time for that?
Mhm.
And you're saying that you give them as much time as they need. So the combat question to that, which teachers will come at you with, or come at me with anyway, is how do I do that if I have to fit in all of the other things?
So
Mhm.
that's a great question. So math play is not something that I do in addition to like, oh, because I'm a teacher, I have to
Mhm.
cover whatever curriculum I have. The finals, the end of the year assessments. So
Hmm.
what I'm trying to do is teach what I need to teach while doing math play. So let me show you. I think we did the questions.
Mhm.
So let me show you like the next level. So instead, like math play shouldn't be thought of like, okay, like there's like this extra thing that I'm going to do, or like Friday is going to be fun because we're going to do this. No, like we were doing, let me show you another example. My students were doing polar coordinates. So what we decided to do, when you're doing polar coordinates, getting used to like the R and theta, and they're like plotting things and whatnot. So what we decided to do is like play a game of Battleship via GeoGebra. So like I'm still teaching what I need to be teaching, but instead of doing a worksheet or instead of doing something like that, they were playing a game of Battleship and they were highly engaged. High schoolers are so competitive when it comes to this. So like I'm teaching them polar coordinates, they're plotting the points, but they're plotting the points with like there's like more purpose to it, right? Like they want to beat each other on the game. Like, oh, they want to find out the coordinates. So it's fun. So it's not something that I'm doing in addition to like all the curriculum that I have, but I know I don't have any room or any time for anything else. Is like adapting like this activity. So like for that unit, like the polar unit, we did this activity. It was fun, and you could do it at the beginning. You could do it where it fits best for you. This was like really good, like the using, and also using tools like GeoGebra, using tools like Desmos. There's a lot of materials out there that you could probably tweak and adjust to like your level. So it's not that you have to create something new from scratch. You could just adapt it, give your students an opportunity to play with the content while you're like covering the curriculum and doing everything that you need to do. I also did this, the Desmos art project was a complete winner. Like you could do it almost like any time. We did it after like rational functions. We did it when we did like conic sections, and also it could be like a fantastic like end of the year project where we I asked the students to like, I teach in at Horace Greeley High School in Chappaqua. So our very first math art project was like, okay, I was like, let's do something that is like school spirit. So I said, like, take a picture of something that is like school related, and let's make some Desmos art with it. And then the things that the students came up with were completely amazing. You can only see, I don't know how many equations here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like about 9 or 10 equations. And I gave them like not like the directions were like very loose, right? But like they did 40 equations. There was a student that did like 100 equations, and like within the equations you had domain and range restrictions. So if anybody thinks like, oh, this is just something cute, like no, you have to know the math to be able to do this. They use linear functions, they use quadratics, they use rational functions, they use trigonometric functions, they use different conic sections. So it was really nice, and they were doing this based on like the school spirit. So it was not only like meaningful, it was like related to like their everyday lives. They did something like this, like the logo of the school, and this was, so we started in class. We did like a I will say like if there was like a half day, that's when we started, and then I gave them like another class period to work on it. Now I'm gonna be honest, I'm comfortable with technology, but I learned so many things about Desmos when we were doing this project because I didn't know. So they were like, Mr. Valencia, how do I change the color for this? I was like I have no idea. Let's try to find out. But like the best tech support for students is like older students. Older students will be like, oh, and it comes like very natural to them. They're like, oh, wait, no, just go here, do this, do that. So like at the end, we were all like really good with like the Desmos, and I learned so many more things. Then we had so much fun with this that the students requested, Mr. Valencia, we should have another project. So then I said, all right, well, let's have another project. So like this time, what do you guys want to do? They said, let's do like a favorite movie character or a favorite book. So this were the result. The results were completely amazing. So like the idea of like, oh, we should do this and we should do this and we should, like, math is very sequential the way we teach it, right? But like when you take it like this, they're doing all kinds of functions, like everything that they know to be able to fit it into like Olaf or whatever it is that they're doing. They're doing domain restrictions, range restrictions, and they're having a lot of fun while doing this. When they did this, of course, I posted it on I shared it on Twitter. The students got to see that, like, oh, Mr. Valencia is like sharing my work. So they were like happy. There were like so many posts about this because there were like so many of them that were like so good. And then of course at the end of the year, once again, they say, Mr. Valencia, we should do this again. So I say, all right, like this time is going to be a free topic. There's also the thing that, oh, like, what if they cheat? But like, if you give a normal assessment, they can also
How
cheat.
do you cheat at this project?
Exactly, you couldn't. And I asked them to like send me a picture, send me the Desmos link, and they did that. And it was, like at that point, I'm not worried about like they're going to do something they're not supposed to because they were engaged. Like I had them, they were doing what they needed to be doing.
But even if they so cheating on a project like
it would be hard.
I mean, it actually means that you would have to be learning the math, right?
Yeah,
like the
exactly.
cheating is getting help with the math. So essentially, the cheating is actually just helping.
And part of the
Right?
learning.
I would
Yeah.
think it's part of the learning. This is amazing.
The
These are
other thing that was like
unbelievable.
really helpful, the only thing that was like really like not helpful but like very positive is that this is during the pandemic time, right?
Mhm.
Like where like everyone is in the computer or like, you know, everything that is happening. But this, I strongly believe that this helped create a sense of community because there was like a common goal, right? Like we're gonna do this picture, and how do you
Mhm.
do this? How do you make it do like this thing? So the students were helping one another because there's always like one Mr. Valencia per like whatever number of students. So it takes time for Mr. Valencia to get to like everybody,
Mhm.
but the students were helping one another. They will show me like, Mr. Valencia, look, we have this group chat of like our math project where they will be like
Oh
sharing
my
things, sharing
gosh.
ideas, like, oh, I think like this character will be good because it will be easier because I could do like sine or I could do cosine. So they're making all these connections with something that is meaningful to them, like Angry Birds or like SpongeBob or whatever. But it was fun. So we're going beyond the traditional things that they normally do in a math class to do something that is like more meaningful to them. They're having more fun. And again, like as you could tell, this wasn't just like a fun thing. There is like rigorous mathematics behind it. There's like they have to know their functions, they have to know their domain and range restrictions. And then at the end, I think that it was such like a good activity. It brought like everyone together, everyone was like happy. So it was like very positive. And I'm not doing like I didn't do this as supposed to something. Like this was how I embedded like math play into what they were learning.
Mhm.
So you're saying that the time that it took for kids to do these activities is roughly the same as what you would have dedicated previously in a
Definitely.
standard
Molly, not
patient
not not
knitted
even
order.
that, but so I gave them like a class period and a half to work on it.
Okay.
Some students were pretty much done. Now, some students are like, you know them, they want everything to be perfect. So
Oh,
some of them, they say, Mr. Valencia, can we have a couple of this? I said, like, this is your project. Like, do whatever you want, right? So they will like take a weekend or take an extra day. They were so engaged in the product and like making it pretty and making it perfect that I allowed them. But this was, I will say, it took I gave them like a class and a half. We had to have that one day, so that's when we started. And then they had like a whole class period, which was fantastic because we got to collaborate. And I learned like
right,
so many
right.
things that then
Mhm.
when like my older class came in, I was ready to help them. I was like, oh, this is how you change the colors. This is how you do this. This is how you
I
do
just
that.
learned. I
Yeah,
just
Yeah.
learned how to do all
exactly.
those things.
So I think they had like a couple of nights or like maybe like the weekend. But like I mean, like if you're doing something like this, the purpose is not like, oh, you have to finish by the end of the period. Like if you're thinking I'm gonna do this and finish by the end of the period, then don't do this. Do a regular worksheet because that's not the point. The point is for them to like
Mhm.
enjoy it, be engaged, and like they did. After doing this, I feel that they did so much more than they had
Mhm.
to. I try to keep the instructions like loose. I didn't say like, oh, you have to have this many questions. I said like, oh, have it at least 10, and
Mhm.
like make sure you use at least like 5 different types of functions. Like make sure there's like a linear or there's a quadratic or there's a trig. But they did like so much more. And like I said, the one thing that I really love was that it was like community building, right? Like everyone's doing the same project, they're talking about it, they have like group chats about it. So it was really nice to see like that kind of connection in a math class.
Yeah. So Julie's saying that unlike a worksheet, this is authentic work that cannot be copied. It's meaningful practice, which
Mhm.
I think she's absolutely right. I mean, this there's so much that goes into this. The ownership for me is one that I find to be really kind of fascinating because I live with 3 teenagers, so I know that ownership over anything is quite a feat. Um, and I'm just feeling like the way that you're even just your excitement about this is so contagious. So how could kids not want to participate in this? And
Mhm.
then now you have all these wonderful samples that you can display next year for kids to see like this is what you can do. um, and I think it's amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
No, so we want to let everyone know who's watching how they can learn more about you. So
Mhm.
um, let's kind of look at some of those ways.
Yes.
So Liba, what's your this is how I connected with you.
Yeah, so
right?
I'm probably the most active on Twitter at at Mr. Valencia 24, and everything that I'm doing is connect is like linked there. I have a YouTube channel. I'm not as active as I am on Twitter. It's easier for me just to share things on Twitter.
Right.
And then the link to the Code Breakers site is there as well. So and then also the I blog for Salas as well. So I've written some ideas, some blogs about like activities for the little ones at home, engaging things, and some other ideas for like math teachers.
Mm-hmm. Can you
Awesome.
tell us about Code Breakers?
Yeah, so I am happy to share that I recently signed a deal with Codebreaker to write a book. Hashtag it's gonna be called hashtag Math Play. So that book is gonna be coming out later. I literally that just happened. So it's a work in progress, like the beginning of progress. So it's coming out hopefully later this year. And my goal with the book is to share some of like what you just observed, and hopefully be able to like inspire people to older educators to like try math play in school, in their classroom, as at home. Not only inspire them, but also give them some specific examples, some specific tools that they can use. Share a little bit about like my journey, like bringing math play into a secondary classroom. So hopefully, hopefully that is the goal of the book, to inspire more people and give them some specific and concrete tools and examples.
Awesome. We
Wow.
love
Well, this
that.
is very exciting stuff. I am looking forward to, I mean, just the few things that you showed us today are super intriguing. So I'm looking forward to seeing your book come out.
Thank you.
No, it's super exciting, and being able to provide teachers with places to go, and like, this is, go get this, read this, and this will help out as you figure out how to really incorporate that into your classroom. I think having specifics, particularly from people who are in the classroom every day
Mhm.
doing the work, is so critically important.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, Libo, thank you so much for joining us today. Your zest for math teaching is certainly a breath of fresh air, and we really are happy to have you on. And after your book comes out, we'll have to have you back.
Yeah,
Thank
for
you.
sure.
No, thank you so much for having it. I'm sorry if I like talk too fast. I get too excited.
Nope.
I can't
Yep.
help it. So
No.
I get too excited, and then you have to like slow me down sometimes. But thank you so much for having me. I am happy to like help spread the joy of math. And my dream is that math class is every kid's favorite class. There is no reason why it shouldn't.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think you've done that yourself. So now it's your job to make the rest of the universe do that.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
Thank
right.
you so
Thanks
much.
for joining us, Libo. We'll see
Thank
you
you.
next time.
Take care.
All right. Wow.
So exciting. And I love
Super
that. I like, okay,
exciting.
like, I have in my head who I'm sending this link to right away. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Good stuff. I love it. Um, all right. Well, our next show is February 2nd, and we are going to be interviewing Sarah Resby. So we're super excited about that.
mhm. On
And
222022.
yes, I saw a shirt that was for February 22nd, 2/22/22, and
Oh, well, that'll be even.
and it's on a Tuesday. So,
There you
anyways,
go.
the shirt was adorable, but I was like, well, how you can only wear it on one day ever? So,
Yeah, but it's
um,
like right up the mathy.
yes, it really. I think
Anyone
that's
watching.
what made me happy, because it was like Tuesday, and they spelled it TWOS Tuesday. So, anyways, okay.
Okay.
All
Yeah,
right,
I'm
dorks
gonna
are
go
us
find it.
around here. That's fine.
No, but we're excited to speak with Sarah on that day. And so we hope that you will join us, and that we will keep math creative, curious, and inclusive for all. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
All right, bye everyone.